Welcome, karibu sana to the Study Room KE platform where we are going to demystify learning, making sure that you learn through this particular platform. Go to our YouTube page, like it, and go to Facebook page, also like it. At this particular period, when you're having a challenge across the world over the pandemic coronavirus, we are going to make sure that you are safe and learning if you are a student. And just to take you through the steps that you need to do to have to make sure that you are protected is that first you must make sure that you wash your hands frequently using soap and maintain social distancing at least between 1 meter and 2 meters. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Make sure that if you have fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing, seek medical care as early as possible, because by that you are going to protect the world. You guys, you can join us. You can make sure that you're getting information about what is happening, the contents that you want through our YouTube page, Study Room KE. You can also go like our page on Facebook. Facebook, we are at Study Room KE. Go so to the mail, send us the email through our email account that is on your screen, and also call us using the contact that is there, starting with 2+254, and we'll be glad to try to respond to any information that you have or any question that you have. Your feedback is our strength. You help us to grow together. Well, today we want to go to human body and more so to learn more about the reproduction in human beings. What do we know about all this and what is important to us? Under this particular topic of reproduction in humans, you are going to learn about ovulation, fertilization, development of the embryo, stages of fetal development, stages of reproduction in human beings, signs of pregnancy, functions of both the placenta and amniotic fluids, and the birth process. And by the end of it all, definitely we are going to have a mind teaser, the questions that are going to come your way, and to see if you have understood the topic. Well, you might be asking yourself, what is reproduction? It refers to giving rise to a new generation. And this purpose of all this is to make sure that there's continuity of life. During puberty stage, where we have girls having their puberty puberty stage falls between 9 and 14 years, while boys having theirs between 12 and 16 years. Boys start producing sperms. Sperms are the male reproductive cells, and these sperms are produced in the testes and stored in the epididymis. The sperm has a void head, a tail, and a nucleus, and the tail helps the sperm to swim. Sperm swim through a fluid known as seminal or seminal fluid, and the mixture of this sperm and the seminal fluid is what we call the semen. Well, both the two genders have the sex cells, and for the ladies, we have the ova, and for the gentlemen, we have the sperms. Now, the ova also has a nucleus, just the same way the sperm has the nucleus. In addition to the nucleus in sperms, the sperm also has a head, a neck, and a tail. After the sex cells, now we want to talk about ovulation. Ovulation is the process of producing ova after every 28 days by the ovaries. The ovulation occurs in the ovaries, and in each cycle, the uterus of a woman undergoes major cycle changes. Every month, it develops a thick lining of blood cells. The lining is very important for the pregnancy to occur. And the ovum is produced by each ovary every 28 days at regular intervals. If by any chance pregnancy does not occur, the lining of the blood cell is shed and passes out through the uterus and vagina as blood discharge. This particular blood discharge is what we call menstruation or monthly period. After ovulation, we go to fertilization. And fertilization is the uniting or fusion of the male and female sex cell. Now, what happens to this particular level? After ovulation, the egg moves towards the uterus through the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube is also known as the oviduct. During the sexual intercourse, sperms are introduced into the vagina by the penis. And one of the sperms penetrates the ovum and fertilization takes place. During fertilization, the nucleus of the sperm and that of the ovum unite and a new cell called the zygote is formed. Only one sperm fertilizes the ovum and others die once fertilization has taken place. And you are a living testimony of all this that I have talked about. Ama vipi? It is important to take note that zygote is simply a fertilized egg or a cell formed immediately after fertilization. And zygote is just a cell, not a group of cells, just a cell. And the period between fertilization to birth is called gestation period. And this period takes 9 months in human beings. After the fertilization and formation of a zygote, now you want to see the development of an embryo. And you must understand that the fertilized egg is the one that moves into uterus and attaches to the wall of the uterus. The process in which this happens is called the implantation. Zygote uses finger-like projection to attach itself to the uterine wall, and the fertilized egg divides repeatedly, that is now the zygote, to form a mass of many similar cells. And this mass of many similar cells is what we are calling now the embryo. Embryo is different from zygote. Zygote is a single cell, embryo is a mass of similar cells. The zygote develops a disc-shaped organ called the placenta. The placenta joins the embryo and the uterus of the mother. The embryo is contained in a sac known as amnion, and the amnion sac is filled with the amniotic fluid. The umbilical cord connects the embryo to the placenta. Now, we have moved from ovulation to fertilization. Now we want to understand more about how do we move from a zygote to a baby. The stages of fetal development: the first stage is zygote, and then followed by embryo, which is now a mass of cells. From there we go to fetus and to baby. And the baby, all this, we have the weeks there. We have the 9 weeks to 40 weeks where we have full-term development of a baby. Now, stages of reproduction in human beings. This is also another important area to handle. And remember, ovulation is the first stage. After ovulation, the next critical one is sexual intercourse. Without this particular stage, then we cannot be talking about reproduction. Sexual intercourse is also called copulation. And after copulation, we go to fertilization, zygote formation, division of cells, the implantation at the uterine wall, embryo formation, and the fetal formation. After the stages of reproduction, now you need to understand, you need to know if you're either pregnant or not. And how do you tell all this? One, the menstruation will stop. And then after that, the breast will start becoming larger and tender and sensitive. And then the third one will be morning sickness. And this is more about being nauseated and vomiting in the morning. Then we have abdomen enlarges. And then the baby movement can be felt after 4 to 5 months. I believe now you understand the disc-shaped organ called the placenta that helps in facilitating the transfer of food from the mother to the embryo. Remember, it also acts as a barrier stopping harmful substances from reaching the fetus. The placenta also facilitates the transfer of waste and gaseous exchange. That is oxygen from the mother to the fetus and carbon dioxide from the fetus to the mother. So definitely the embryo survives through the help of this placenta. Look at this particular image. You can see the amniotic sac. Now, that particular sac is what carries the amniotic fluid. Now, what are the functions of the amniotic fluid? One, it keeps the fetus warm. You can see the fluid that is there, keeping the fetus warm. As it also acts as a lubricant during birth. The amniotic fluid also helps the fetus to turn freely, and it keeps the fetus in a watery environment to prevent the fetus from dehydration. And finally, it also protects the embryo by acting as a shock absorber when by any chance there is an injury or a fall. So protecting the embryo by acting as a shock absorber prevents the baby from injuries. It is important to take notice of this, that during pregnancy the mother's blood and that of the fetus do not totally mix. And the second one is that the baby is safe. A mother cannot pass HIV or AIDS to the baby during pregnancy. So if a mother is having the virus cannot get to the baby during that particular period, unless or during the time the baby is born, when there will be the first contact of the mother's blood and the baby. Ovulation to fertilization to now dealing with the issue of pregnancy to the time now we want to give birth. So the birth process is different, and we need to understand that the process is also called the parturition. Days before birth, the fetus turns its head downwards in the uterus. And now during birth, already the baby has turned his head and is facing downwards, ready to get out. So during birth, the uterine wall contracts, causing the mother to experience labor pains. The cervix relaxes or dilates, and then the amnion sac ruptures to release the amniotic fluid. And then this particular fluid flows out through the birth canal. The contraction of the uterine and the abdominal muscles pushes the baby through the birth canal, and this is the time the baby is born. After the baby has been born, the next process is the umbilical cord is tied and cut, not cut and tied. It is tied and then you cut. After tying and cutting, then there is the last part, that is the release of afterbirth, and this afterbirth is the placenta, and with the remain of the umbilical cord. It is also good to take note that the newly born baby takes his breath using the lungs for the first time, and the release of the afterbirth what shows the process of giving birth is over. So immediately when we have the release of the afterbirth, then the process of giving birth is over. We are coming to the final part of the topic, and this is now where we want to gauge if you have understood whatever lesson you are having. And remember, our lesson was under human reproductive system, and these particular questions are going to help you to recap, to understand, to know what you have gone through. So if you're able to answer the questions right, that is okay. If you have not, you can still go play the video so that you're able to understand everything. These particular questions are going to jog your mind, and they are going to make you understand better about who you are. We have come to the end of the lesson. Thank you so much for being part of the team and for following through. For all the questions that you have, please make sure that you share them in different platforms that you have, either through the YouTube chat. You can also do the same on our Facebook page, and you can also do the same through the email. But remember to subscribe, that every time we have a new post, you are the first person to get it. Anytime we have a new video, you're the first person to get the same.